It's late February. Winter's still got its boot on your neck, but the calendar's already whispering, spring, 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 like it's trying to lure you outside. And that's when horror loves to strike, right in the in-between. Not the cozy holiday season, not the bright, loud summer box office, the liminal stretch where you're half asleep, half hopeful, and you swear you heard footsteps behind you on an empty sidewalk. This is a week for invisible threats and slow realization terror. Stories where the monster isn't always a creature with teeth. Sometimes it's a virus. Sometimes it's a smile that isn't quite right. And sometimes it's the person you love walking toward you. And you can't tell if that's relief or doom. And because this week sometimes includes Leap Day, we'll tip the hat to February 29th, the calendar's hidden room, the extra day you didn't plan for, the day that shouldn't exist, but does. Welcome to This Week in Horror History. I'm your host, Enrique Couto, and this is your weekly time machine through the creepiest anniversaries in film, television, games, and literature. Our window for this week is February 23rd through March 1st. Coming up, a viral outbreak that turns neighbors into hunting dogs. A modern classic that weaponizes nice into something sinister. A survival horror hit that drops you on an island where the trees feel like they're watching. And it might be the case. And a big zombie universe premiere built around one question: can love outlast the end of the world? Then, after the break, we're headed into our deep cut spotlight, a 2020 release date that hits like a scream, and then got swallowed by the real-world nightmare that followed. The monster is unseen, the terror is intimate, and the scars are the point. February 26th, 2010, The Crazies hit theaters and reminded everyone that Romero-era paranoia doesn't need zombies to work, and also that saying Romero-era is quite a tongue twister. It really beats She Sells Seashells Down by the Seashore, if you ask me. This remake drops you into a small Iowa town where something in the water turns ordinary people into violent, unpredictable threats. The real horror is the speed of the collapse, how fast trust evaporates once you can't tell who's infected, who's hiding symptoms, or who's about to snap. It did strong business for a mid-budget horror thriller, about $54.8 million worldwide on a reported $20 million budget, and it was a remake of one of George Romero's lesser-known films. Romero, of course, famous for Night of the Living Dead, a horror film that changed everything, and its follow-ups, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, and a few more that we won't bring up here. They're not terrible, but they were not the trailblazing horror of the original trilogy. The Crazies remake is a lot of fun, and it definitely has the holdover of that early 2000s slick yet nasty horror vibe, and I think it's worth a revisit or a first-time watch. Best part, you can watch it free with ads on the Roku channel, and of course rent it at the usual suspects like Prime Video, Fandango at Home, and Apple TV. Oh, and I want to mention, a listener had asked me if we had some kind of a deal with the streamers, especially Roku and Tubi TV and places like that. We do not. We're just reporting who is kindly providing the content we all enjoy at the time of this recording. But you know, that kind of paranoia about hidden commercials in the programs you like, fits the theme of the crazies perfectly. February 24th, 2017 gave us Get Out, and the genre didn't walk back out the same way it entered. Jordan Peele's debut turns social dread into a trap door, awkward politeness, nice comments that land wrong, then the slow realization you're not visiting a family, you're walking into a system. It's also one of modern horror's great business success stories. Roughly $255 million worldwide on a reported $4.5 million budget. Just to give you context, we just talked about the Crazies remake from 2010, a film that was panned by a lot of critics, but was enjoyed by a decent amount of the movie-going public. It was a remake of a film no one really knew that well. It was one of George Romero's least known films, although he had a lot of those. It got $20 million in budget 7 years earlier, but then Get Out gets $4.5 million to work with. But luckily, Jordan Peele knew exactly how to handle that budget, because I am a very big fan of Get Out. I think it is one of his best it is his best horror film as far as sheer fear. I like this one the most, although Us is very scary, and I freaking love Nope. But I consider Nope more of a monster ride with a lot of horror in it. It didn't scare me quite as much as Get Out did. Of course, I also saw Get Out in the theater less than 24 hours after having gallbladder surgery. And the scene where the lead character falls back into his mind from hypnosis messed me up because I was still whacked out on all the medications they pumped me full of. So I don't know if it'll ever be as good as that first viewing, but I do love Get Out. And it's a film that you need to watch and you need to revisit every so often. I mean, next year it'll be a 10-year-old film. That kind of blows my mind and reminds me that my back hurts. You can revisit it today with your HBO Max subscription, whether you're using it through HBO Max itself or using an add-on on Hulu or YouTube or Sling, whatever you like. Or, of course, you can rent it on Amazon Prime, Google Play, YouTube, Apple TV, and, you guessed it, Fandango at home. February 23rd, 2023, Sons of the Forest had its early access release and turned relaxing cabin getaway into more of a I'm sprinting through the woods at night because something is shrieking behind me. It's a great example of a simple and exciting survival horror game built on tension created by you. Your first night without a real shelter. The first time you see movement between trees. The first time you realize the island isn't so empty after all. They build that dread like a cabin made of bloody popsicle sticks. Hey, I made that up just now and I'm leaving it in. It's currently available for your gaming enjoyment on PC via Steam. February 25th, 2024 brought The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, a tight 6-episode miniseries that makes the apocalypse feel personal again. Instead of expanding the map of the Walking Dead universe, it tightens the focus. Love, loss, and the question of what survival does to a person when the one thing they want back may just be impossible. While later Walking Dead kind of lost me because it felt a bit repetitive, I liked the mentality of this 6-episode miniseries with such a degree of focus. It grabbed my attention pretty well and it held on to it. If you haven't had the chance to check it out yet and you feel the need to watch some zombies munching flesh, it's available on AMC Plus for your enjoyment. All right, my spookies. Time for a quick breather, but first, a warning. Always check the ice. Tomorrow, on the weekly spooky feed right here, Wednesday, we're heading out onto a frozen lake with Douglas Waltz's On the Ice, a widower looking for quiet. A cold, clean horizon, a hole drilled straight through the winter like a doorway. And then, one sharp crack, the kind that makes your stomach drop, because you suddenly realize the lake has been listening the whole time. Because something is moving down there. Something black and shining under the ice, far too fast to be a shadow, too deliberate to be a fish, and the worst part, you don't see it. You feel it, circling, bumping the underside like it's testing the world above, like it's deciding whether you're prey or an invitation. He came out there to grieve, to breathe, to be alone. But out on that glassy, frozen nothing, alone, is the last thing he'll ever be. That's tomorrow right here on Weekly Spooky. Then on Friday, Cutting Deep into Horror returns with an often overlooked and truly chilling gut punch from 1985, Confessions of a Serial Killer, one of my personal favorite horror films. No glossy slasher theatrics, no cute winks, just that grimy, grounded kind of horror where every scene feels too real, and the confession is not even the worst part. A slow walk into the mind of a killer, and the uncomfortable question of how long before we look away when the monster looks just like you and me. So make sure you're subscribed, because on Friday we're talking all about the horror of that film, right here on the Weekly Spooky feed. And don't go anywhere, because when we return we'll have our deep cut spotlight. You know the story. An abuser, a victim, an empty room, and the feeling that you're not alone. No monster suit, no jump scare gimmicks, just the oldest fear in the world. Being watched. All right, my spookies, we're back, so let's get into it. February 28th, 2020. The Invisible Man arrives in theaters, and it doesn't just resurrect a classic monster, it drags the concept into a relationship where you're being controlled and everyone around you thinks you are the problem. Lee Winnell's take understands the true engine of invisible horror, not the effects, the denial, the gaslighting, the way a victim starts doubting their own senses because the world keeps insisting nothing is happening. It also became a monster success story. On a reported $7 million budget, The Invisible Man grossed about $145 million worldwide, proof that studio horror doesn't need gigantic budgets. It needs a point of view. Same studio, by the way, that did Get Out. Go figure. The timing is eerie in hindsight, though. The film hits in late January, and within weeks, the world is shutting down. Theatrical runs get cut short, the movie moves to premium VOD early, or the drive-in theater, which is where I saw it a second time during lockdown. It was like the genre accidentally predicted the feeling of an unseen threat, changing your life overnight. If you haven't seen it before or revisited it lately, make sure you notice how it uses space. Wide frames, empty corners, shots that hold a little too long. It teaches you to stare at nothing until nothing feels like something. I don't know about you, but that scares the crap out of me. If you want to watch it right now, the easiest way is to check it out with your Peacock subscription. That way you can also check out The Burbs TV series, which I haven't had a chance to watch yet, but my mother, of all people, just adores it. And of course, it's available for rent or purchase digitally via Amazon Prime Video, Apple TV, and Fandango at home. All right, time to talk about some spooky birthdays on the horizon. Starting with February 23rd, 1904, when Terence Fisher was born, the Hammer Films maestro who put Gothic horror in living color, shaping the look of Dracula, Frankenstein, and a whole era of horror classics. Hammer Films have a feel and a vibe that kind of always felt to me like grown-up Universal horror. When I kick back and watch Universal horror films on a Sunday afternoon, I feel kind of like a kid again. When I kick back and watch Hammer films on a Sunday afternoon, I feel like a grown-up enjoying something nasty yet oddly classy. Happy birthday, Terence Fisher. On February 24th, 1966, Billy Zane is born. A genre favorite for a reason. If you want him at his most delightfully sinister and hilarious, I really can't recommend enough a revisit of Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight. But Billy Zane is kinda great in anything you put him in, even if it's inherently cheesy or silly. Happy birthday, Billy Zane. On February 25th, 1950, Neil Jordan is born. The filmmaker behind the loved by audiences and critics alike Interview with the Vampire and other moody, sometimes romantic horror films that treat monsters like poetry with teeth. A hell of a filmmaker in every genre who left a wonderful and bloody mark on horror history. Happy birthday, Neil Jordan. And finally, born on March 1st, 1983, Lupita Nyong'o. In many ways a modern scream queen, who's been in films such as the goofy and kitschy Cooties, about killer children attacking, as well as films that bring us to tears like A Quiet Place Day One, and of course, her unforgettable role in Jordan Peele's Us. She's always bringing intelligence and fire to the fear. Happy birthday, Lupita Nyong'o. And for our then and now this week, we want to talk about how time seems to relate. This week is basically a perfect horror sampler platter if you think about it. 2010 gives you contamination paranoia. 2017 turns polite into predatory. 2020 makes the terror invisible and makes belief part of the monster. 2023 strands you somewhere gorgeous that feels hostile. 2024 asks if love can survive the end of the world. Different decades, same heartbeat. The rules you rely on are about to fail. For our weekly recommendation, if you want something cozy and creepy that still bites, cue up From Beyond the Grave, released in the United Kingdom on February 23rd, 1974. It's a classic Amicus anthology horror film, a British studio that would become famous for kind of being the very low-budget kind of Hammer studios, and were most known for their anthology films, especially Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horror, based on the EC comics that are their namesakes. It's classic Amicus anthology horror, a sinister antique shop, a warning you should absolutely listen to, and 4 little morality nightmares, where one bad choice becomes a personalized haunting. Peter Cushing is pitch perfect as the proprietor. He's polite, calm, and quietly certain you're about to get exactly what you deserve. It's a gem of horror that I really do recommend, and really I recommend the majority of the Amicus horror anthologies as a real good time, and they're free to stream right now with ads on Plex, or you can check it out on Hoopla with your library card membership, and of course you can rent or buy them on Amazon Prime Video, Apple TV, and Fandango at home, or grab a Blu-ray if you're into that kind of thing. Well, that's our trip through February 23rd to March 1st in horror history. If you want more scares, remember this Wednesday, tomorrow, a brand new terror tale on Weekly Spooky for you to enjoy. And on Friday, cutting deep into horror returns as we talk about one of my most beloved lost gems in horror, Confessions of a Serial Killer. So make sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcasting app. And while you're at it, leave us a 5-star rating. It really does help. And if you love what we're doing here at This Week in Horror History and want to reach out to us, send us an email at weeklyspooky@gmail.com. I'll be back here next Tuesday with another dive into horror history. Until then, remember, our days are numbered, because that's how we tell them apart. See you next time.